Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living out my dreams. If I'm waking up, it's in a foreign land. Whole risk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Ron.
And today we have a very special guest from the cast of the hit series Your Honor. We are talking with Keith Machekanyanga, who is playing Lil Mo on the show. So we are so excited to see him, and you will definitely enjoy this one. So hello, Keith. It is a pleasure you today. If you don't know already, we are huge fans of the show Your Honor. We recap it every week, and we really get into the weeds, talking about everything that's going on. So we were very much invested in the show.
Thank you. I'm sure you're talking about a lot. A lot happens.
Yeah. It's a pleasure talking to you. We really liked your character on the show, Lil Mo. You had a lot of loyalty, almost to a fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll kick to Tiffany to kick us off with some questions for you.
Okay. Hi, Keith. Well, since she brought up the Lil Mo character, I want to know, the situation with you and Chris. At the end, it was kind of on a fence whether you were going to be involved in the coup with Chris or not against Big Mo. And was there a doubt in Lil Mo's mind at any time that he was going to flip on his auntie? Or was he just playing Chris?
I think, like you were mentioning before, the loyalty aspect of it definitely put Lil Mo on the fence. It was a lot of fun to work with that side of the scenes and all the scenes leading up to the moment with Chris at the docks, because it's that internal question that I was asking myself and the director about, hey, would Lil Mo actually do this? But if you think about it, if he's really that loyal to Desire, maybe he is playing Chris this whole time, but with that element, that emotional element of knowing that, like, why would he ever turn on his auntie when his auntie is the only person he's ever had? So he understands Chris's sentiment to start the coup because of Big Mo's distractions and Big Mo's own desires and stuff. But at the end of the day, he's just another henchman, and Big Mo is blood. And I wanted to, really try to focus on the fact that, Big Mo is blood. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to turn on blood, even if blood turns on me,
Yeah, like I said, loyal to a fault.
I think it's a core part to his character that I wanted to keep Lil Mo loyal as possible. And we talked about this in circles, because trust me, we were asking the same questions when we were working on this part too, because it's difficult. Chris is such a good guy. He's so loyal. He takes care of his family. But at the same time, he has the same killer instincts that, Big Mo and Lil Mo have. And I feel like that's why he turned on Chris, because he can see the intent. And if the intent is to hurt family, then why would I run with that in a way?
Right. But Chris lost his little brother. He lost his little brother. And then, Lil Mo went and paid respects to his mother and everything. So it's like, wow, you went to pay respects because of the loss of one son, and then now Big Mo has taken out the oldest son.
But you could see struggle with that. You couldn't even pull the trigger when it came down to it. So I do feel like there's a little bit more humanity to Lil Mo.
It's always a question of where Lil Mo comes from, like his origin, And when I created the story myself, I think Lil Mo might, he would have been in a different spot in his life if he'd made the decision to be a little bit less gangster in the things that he does. I think Lil Mo's heart always, goes first versus what Desire would want him to do. I think he's there to support Desire to, help get cleaner drugs he's still a drug dealer, but he's an ethical drug dealer, is what I like to say.
If there ever was one, right?
Not exactly. If there ever was, I think he's striving for that. But that's where a lot of his problems come from, because you can't have both. In this life, you can't have both when involving yourself in such nefarious deeds as in selling drugs in the lower ninth.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Method acting is a situation where an actor completely immerses himself in a character or in a role. Is that something you were doing for Lil Mo?
So method acting was always interesting, but as we're taught when going through training, because I went to college at the University of Texas at Austin, their theater dance program, and they stressed that method acting is never usually the best way to go about doing stuff just for the actor itself. So I try to avoid, putting myself in those shoes too much. But instead, I feel like understanding the world that these characters come from is just enough, other than method acting, because method acting can really affect who you are as a person outside of your job. You want to be able to be there and do your work there, and then when you're off, when you clock out, when you go back to the hotel, you just get to be yourself.
Right.
Because if I was Lil Mo all the time, maybe the performance itself would be different, but at the same time, I feel like it would take away from who I am. And I'm bringing myself to Lil Mo's shoes and sympathizing with him versus fully immersing myself into his world, because the focus should be more on the story and telling the story right, versus me as Keith being Lil Mo for that 6 months of filming, for that 7 months of filming, which I don't think I need to do that. Also, I'm not trained in it. Method acting is a very committed and trained thing that a lot of people either learn from somebody or it's self-taught. But yeah.
I also hear and how you versus the way Lil Mo sounds. So did you New Orleans accent? How did you tweak that?
So I'll be honest with you. So season one, I got to New Orleans and it was my first time there. But I have family that lives out there, and I have family that moved from New Orleans to Houston and Dallas. So it was really cool that they were able to tell that kind of story from Lil Mo traveling from New Orleans to Texas. But I would go around town, I would hit up Bourbon, and I would go grab dinner by myself, and I would talk to a lot of the locals that worked at Felix's. If you don't know what Felix's is, it's an oyster bar down in on Bourbon Street. And I would watch documentaries and learn the basics. But then at the same time, it's like it's such a specific accent. It's such a specific thing that is rich in the culture of the place. Like you can almost feel the humidity in the accent. So you really have to be on the streets for a very long time. And I did my thing. And in season one, I was like on Twitter and I was reading, some people liked it, some people didn't. And I listened to this one guy from Felix's. He had told me, he was like, if somebody were to tell you their accent wasn't good, that's a very opinionated thing to say, because the accents in New Orleans vary very much so too. Some are different than others. So going into season two, I wanted to, have a little bit of it in certain words that I know that are said differently, but at the same time still be myself, so that my natural self comes out, so that Lil Mo is more convincing being human. In terms of the voice, I think I've always wanted to do a role where the character is like vocally intimidating in a way. He might be smaller, he's tall and lanky and smaller in stature, but a lot of his power comes from his voice. And, my vocal register can go up and down. Like, we can talk during this interview, and if you get me excited about anything, it's going to go up, or I can meet somebody on the street for the first time and I'll be like, hey, how's it going? My name's Keith.
Very convincing.
Definitely.
I get it. I've been talking to people that have seen the show, and they are surprised when they hear my voice and hear how nice it is. They're like, oh, you sound so nice. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I kind of get it.
You had a role in Justin Simeon's Dear White People.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask you, what was it like playing in that role where so many quote unquote people thought the film to be reverse racism? What did you think about that?
When it comes down to people's thoughts and opinions about it, I see why those opinions came up, but I also think that was the kind of the point of the show, was to bring
Yeah.
up conversations like that.
Mm-hmm.
Going into it, all I wanted to do was work on the show because I was a fan of the show ever since the movie and then the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
So those thoughts never really came up for me because Justin was such an amazing person to work with, and the cast and the crew, they were so diverse. Everyone was just happy to be there, that I feel like whatever dialogue that comes up is definitely worth talking about, but it depends on who the person is that holds that opinion.
Yeah.
And as long as they watch the entire show for its full context, opinion or not, at least get the full story of what Justin is trying to tell in these stories with these Black characters that are in a college setting, because there weren't a lot of shows like that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on a platform like Netflix where everyone gets to see it. Sometimes I imagine some people would go on Netflix when the show first came out and they saw a show called Dear White People. They could feel all sorts of ways about it, but they were going to click it and find out what's going on. No matter what their opinion was, they at least got to see the scope of what these characters are living and how these characters are being represented and how they mirror some people that have this real life experience when they're in university. Yes, is it heightened a little bit? Yes, but at the same time, it's still a story being told that I think is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know a lot of times as an actor, you don't always get to see different storylines that you're not a part of. So with Your Honor, with so many storylines that were going on outside of just Lil Mo and Desire, was there anything that you were excited to see come together, like other storylines once you watched it?
Yeah. So when season 2 started and we started getting the scripts, I would read them in their entirety, and then I would be done and I'll be like, oh wow, like I wish I didn't know that, because I can't wait to see it on screen. So by like halfway through the season, like by episode 5, I stopped reading what goes on in the other subplots because I was so invested to see how it all, panned out on screen. Because seeing it on script, and then seeing it on screen is very different, because you could read it and then you see what makes the cut and what doesn't make the cut. So I was really invested in the Brian storyline with the FBI agent being involved, the FBI agent that Rosie Perez plays, because I was such a big fan of Rosie that I really couldn't wait to see how that performance was done, because on paper she's intimidating, but then what Rosie does, she's intimidating with a smile on her face. It's almost as if she wants to crack a joke to get under your skin, and she's using that smile to get under your skin the whole time. So it was really, I'm glad I stopped reading, because getting to watch a legend like Rosie Perez perform this role, I was, especially, like one-on-one with Brian and stuff, I was so happy and so stoked with that. Another plot that I was really into was Carlo Baxter's story. Carlo Baxter playing the son of Jimmy, because he's now this guy who, has a lot of these flaws and has all of these young tendencies to be, rageful and violent. But at the same time, he is trying and forcing his way to change so much. So I was really excited to see how he would mature throughout the season. Does he still make the typical mistakes that he makes? Yeah, but it's still interesting to see how he tries to be better than that, But sometimes you can't escape what naturally is kind of ingrained into his nature. So yeah, I was excited to see that storyline.
But we were excited that Eugene made it. We were all rooting for him to get a second chance, and you played a role in that because initially you let him go instead of
Yeah.
disposing of him and everything. So that plot line, we were definitely all invested in that, and we were happy that at the end of this, that you, Big Mo, and Eugene made it out because I was telling Tierra and Ron in our recap that I was afraid that this was going to be really tragic and that there were going to be a lot of deaths at the end of this and stuff.
Me
So I
too.
was
Me
glad that the
too.
three of you guys made it.
I was scared that tragically the war between the Baxters and Desire would result in a lot of, one side taking another person from another side. But I was really pleased with how the story was told. I was in a lot of contact with the showrunner before the season started, and Joey Hartstone, he did a really good job of asking us individually what we thought of these characters and where we wanted to see these characters go. And one of like the big things for me as Little Mo and Eugene for their relationship was Little Mo has a lot of empathy for Eugene because in a way, Little Mo has a hand in everything that happened to him. From putting Kofi onto that job and then having to take the kid in when he has nothing else. And I really wanted for the show to explore a little bit more of that empathetic side of these people that can be depicted as just solely gang members, but instead they're humans first. And, I think anybody in Little Mo's position would see a kid like Eugene and want to see the best for him, because in a way, Eugene is like Little Mo. Like, you don't know exactly where Little Mo comes from, but he's taken in by somebody. He's taken in by his aunt. And, he ends up being transformed into the world that his aunt has created. And I don't think Little Mo ever wants to see that happen to Eugene at this point now. I don't think he wants Eugene to have to walk in Little Mo's shoes. So instead, it's on his mind the whole time that, hey, let me ask this kid how he's doing in school, if he's talking to anybody, if he's living a normal life. And I think he knew that he was going to live a normal life if he sent him to Aunt Sheila's place, because he knew Aunt Sheila already looks at the Desire world in one way and has her opinions about where her sister does. And I think Little Mo knows because of that, Eugene will be in a very good place, being kept and watched under the eye of somebody who is there to only do good. That's where I came from when it came to me and Eugene's relationship. It was just be the brother Eugene doesn't have anymore, instead of the drug dealer that's, trying to bring him into the crew.
Yeah, there's so many nuances in that story. And we talked to Andreen Ward Hammond, and we kind of told her that we felt like, Little Mo and Big Mo's storyline, and along with the whole Desire organization, like how that organization rose to the top in New Orleans, could have been its own storyline in itself. We can get a whole spinoff on that, because we were so curious about that. And, the way you go into detail about, Little Mo and how he doesn't necessarily have a backstory per se. He was just taken, like that. We could go down the rabbit hole on that and a whole spinoff.
Completely. And I think that's credit to Andreen's performance too, because to be able to play a role that is a certain position of power so convincingly typically in organizations that do what Desire do, they're typically male run. But to play Big Mo so powerfully, her performance literally makes you wonder, like, how did you get to the point to get all of these men to listen to you and to never question what you do? And if they do, they pay for it. And you saw what happened to Little Mo when he started questioning what Big Mo wanted to do. And then at the end of it, have exile Little Mo. And at the end of the day, he'll still come back and, be on your side. Her performance did all of that. It makes you wonder, like, oh, we want more. Like, this whole Desire storyline can have so much depth. But that just goes to credit to the kind of work actor like Andreen and her preparation and her performance and her execution can do to the audience, because without performers like Andreen, I don't think the speculation of where did desire come from, where that doesn't exist without someone as talented as Andreen.
So let me hypothetically ask this question. Let's suppose that there's a season 3. Does this alliance with the Gina Baxter and Big Mo, does that actually hold, or would you think there might be some chink in the ointment, or is that what it's called, or chink in the armor, I should say?
Right. I think, given the fact that we have no idea. Like, we finished the season 2 finale in New Orleans, and that was it. And all we have now is to watch the show. And I can speculate whether or not, just hypothetically, story-wise, what would happen. But I think the most interesting thing is that there is kinks. These are 2 powerful women who run 2 completely different operations. So if I were to guess anything, there wouldn't be anything that goes smoothly. This show doesn't, nothing goes smoothly in this show. Everybody's stuff gets, aired out in some way, and there's some sort of conflict. And just looking at the disposition of Gina and just the state of the Desire crew, I think for a while things might be, roses and it's pretty and everything's working out, but something is bound to happen when you're dealing with, drug empires. They never end well.
Right.
But who's to say? That's in my greatest imagination. We have no idea what's going to happen if there is a season 3. But even if there isn't, I think those speculations can continue, and we can just keep it in our minds and our daydreams on, how would Gina and Big Mo get along truly if this story was to continue. But
I just had to throw my plug in just for season 3.
Hey, we love the finale and how things ended, but we did feel like they left the door open, that there were a lot more things that could explore. So we got our fingers crossed on the season maybe one day.
Yeah,
or
trust
release a
me,
spinoff.
Exactly. Me too. My fingers are crossed too, because I love the show. I love the story, because I remember when I first read the story, and it was taking place in New Orleans, and I was really happy about that, because New Orleans is a place filled with so much culture, and I think any opportunity to have a story take place there, and as long as it's done honestly and truthfully, I think does really well for a place like New Orleans. And if we were to do another season, what a great opportunity to be able to go back to New Orleans, because I love the city. It feels like a second home to me now. It's just, it's an amazing place to be. I love the people. I took every opportunity to get out of my hotel room and go get some food, and I spent too much money going out. So we'll see what happens, but I have no idea. I'll be happy for whatever happens, whatever decision is made. We did it. I'm very grateful for both of the seasons that I was able to be a part of, and yeah.
You did an amazing job.
Yeah, you did. Now, one quick question, and I hope I'm not running too much out of time, but you starred in a movie, horror film, Dead Con.
Right.
I'm a horror fan, so I had to bring that up. How'd you like that drama, I should say the genre over the thriller drama that you were playing with Your Honor?
So the thriller genre, I think, I love dramas. I love anything that, I don't consider myself a comedian or anything, and I've found my strong suits in being in something that's thriller, horror, or drama. With Your Honor, it was definitely something I was very adapt to. This was definitely a role I knew I could execute. And DevCon was one of the first projects I'd ever worked on when I first moved to LA.
Okay.
And that one was a fun project because I never really saw myself doing anything of that sort. And I'll be happy to do it again because Dead Card was fun. Your Honor was fun. I know how to step into the shoes of stakes that this genre allows to. It's something that like I'm generally a happy person, and there's no real thrill in my life. I like to keep things very calm and collected and chill, but it's one of my favorite things to watch and things to do. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, it does.
In terms of the genre. Yeah. If I had a choice, I would go for the thrillers and, you know, the real dramatic stuff to do because I think it's interesting. It's interesting to explore. My girlfriend would say that she hates watching shows like that. She has a hard time watching Your Honor, but she still does and she enjoys it. But after she needs to go take a walk and have a breather. But for me, I'm like, wow, I want more.
So, those lumps all over your face in Your Honor then.
Yeah.
Exactly. I wanted to say to you, I know we're gonna have to wrap it up soon, but I wanted to say, like, I share your love for New Orleans, and one of the things that they depict in this show, you know, the relationship with New Orleans, but also you mentioned Houston, and you know, after Katrina, I know that a lot of New Orleans residents kind of migrated to Houston and the Texas area after that. And so I felt like it was like a natural connection there in the storyline without even saying it, you know.
Exactly. I when I read that, I was pleased. In fun fact, we never actually shot in Houston because it would be a lot of travel to do. But what we did have to do at least was to make it feel like Houston, the whole atmosphere to feel like Houston for us to get to Houston. And you can see that we're a little, like Lil Mo's a little hotter, he's sweating a little bit, but I really love the connection between New Orleans and Houston being made in that way. And also Houston being kind of a safe haven for Eugene because it was a safe haven for a lot of people after Katrina and stuff. So that little connection there, it's small and subtle, but it's very important. Yeah, it's very important.
Caught it. Yeah. Well, Keith, this has been amazing. We can't thank you enough for taking time out to talk with us. I know we could probably go on and on, but
yeah, we could.
But we appreciate you so much, and
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yes, we will keep up with you and all your work, and we look forward to seeing what you have coming in the future as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You guys have a good one. It was an honor. Trust me, I could talk over and over and over about I'm as big a fan as you guys are. Trust me.
Oh yeah, and you work with a great ensemble cast, like the work with Bryan Cranston and, as you said, Rosie Perez and Carmody Jogo. I was like, wow. All these people.
No pun intended, but it was an honor. Like, it totally was an honor to work with them. And I made the joke on my last day of set. I made that exact joke too. You know, I make jokes like this all the time, corny jokes that are too much on the nose, but it was definitely an honor to work with them. And like, I'm just eternally grateful because I know it's a very tough industry to be in. So to be able to work with them on a show like this, I'm never gonna forget it. And I'm gonna continue on with my life. Is one of the things, as this show being one of the things on my belt that I'm really proud of.
And you should be.
Yes.
Season 3 or not, you guys left your mark. It's an amazing show.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
thank you so much, guys.
Yep, we appreciate you. Our honor.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. We do appreciate it. Thank you much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you have a good one.
Bye-bye.
The energy a little different when the blessings accrue. Hey, who you talking to? Just know I ain't no regular fool. Could be anything in the world, but I can never be you because I stand tall like I'm on my tiptoes, baby. You think a little too small. I got big goals, baby. Hey, where the money at? Look, I just need the info. Pronto, I go and get it and split it with my kinfolk daily. And I'm the type of that might change my number on you. Yeah, that's how you react when people took a slumber on you.